Hey everyone, this is Paul, and with me today is my co-host Rehan, and we are the Dualcast Podcast.
Hi guys, what are you going to talk about today, Paul? Or what are we going to talk about today?
Today we'll be touching on a few subjects. We'll be mentioning about Gametrailers closing down, talk about the Division closed beta as well as the upcoming one, kind of mention Layers of Fear, as well as some movies and TV recap, just some news going on, and then we'll end the episode actually with our impressions and kind of a review of Firewatch. And just FYI for people listening, there will be spoilers for that one.
All right, yeah, that sounds good today. I think since this is our first show, though, I think we should go ahead and tell people a little bit about ourselves and what we're about. So I'll let you go ahead and take that on. First one, go ahead.
As I mentioned before, my name is Paul. Pretty much just getting to this, passionate for games. Rehan's more so the movie guy. Essentially, I am just doing school right now, living on my own. So, I honestly don't know how much to share with everyone right now, as I'm sure they'll come to know me more as kind of the episodes go on. But yeah, super passionate about games, hoping to kind of dive into more of them in every way possible. So yeah, no, that's me. How about you?
Well, I hope to get to know you more through this journey instead of the last 8 years that I've known you. No, I'm Rehan. It's a bit of a strange name. You pronounce that Ray like R-A-Y and then Han, H-A-N like Han Solo. I'm about as cool as that, except I'm not. But I'm pretty much just like Paul. I've been a long-time gamer ever since I was honestly 5, 6. Start off on Super Nintendo and just kind of work my way up. But just like Paul, I have a really big passion for gaming, although I think I have an equally large passion for film. And, I'm really doing this podcast with my friend over here, or one of my best friends over here, really, because I figured it was a really good outlet to talk about film as well as gaming in general. So, that's why I'm doing this. And hopefully, I get to share more about myself and, I learn more about other people too, if and when we ever have fans. So that's pretty much me.
All right, and just a little bit about us, how we met and such. We actually met on a game of Gears of War back when it was first out.
That was ages ago. That was almost 10 years ago. I want to say we met pretty randomly. It was 2006, and we were in the same clan. And yeah, we met on Gears of War on the Xbox 360 days, which seems like ages ago now. And honestly, we've kept in contact since. He's been my longest running friend ever on any kind of online platform. We have met before, actually. We recently met in person about
2 years ago?
I want to say a year and a half, almost 2 years. Almost 2 years now. So that was really fun. So we have definitely met in person. So I know he's real, and he's short. So there is that. That was confirmed to me. But that's pretty much how we met. And I
honestly was surprised about just how large Rehan was when I first met him.
That's funny because when I met you, you were short, but you were wider than my door frame. So I remember I couldn't let you inside my house. I just couldn't. It was physically impossible.
God damn it.
Oh man. But yeah, no, that's pretty much how we met, and it's been a really good friendship for the both of us, and I definitely hope to continue it, and especially with pursuing this kind of project. So yeah, I think it's going to be good for us.
All right, sounds good. Now that we've kind of gotten ourselves out of the way, let's kind of start digging into the content of the episode. Which, first up, we're going to be talking about Gametrailers closing down. Which, if you didn't know, after 13 years, it's actually closing down. So that's a pretty big thing. So what are your thoughts on that, Rehan?
Well, for me, honestly, I found out when you actually texted me about it. You said Gametrailers was closing down, and obviously you saw my reaction through the text, but I couldn't really believe it. But then when I did some digging online, and I found out not only was Gametrailers closing down, Gametrailers was literally closing down that day that you texted me about it. So
yeah,
that was a stunner. That was a shocker. I'll be honest, I haven't actually gone to Gametrailers really in the last, I want to say at least almost 4 years to actively check out their content, but that was definitely a review outlet that I definitely paid attention to whenever, reviews for games that I cared about came out. And I mean, I grew up with Gametrailers, the last, 10, 13 years, whatever it may be. I do remember avidly going to their website a lot and, watching their video content. That's also where I saw, like, Screw Attack and the Angry Video Game Nerd stuff. So there were a number of things on there that I was really a big fan of, and especially in the later years. I don't know if you've ever seen the videos from The Final Boastman. Just some great stuff there, and I really hope he can continue that on some kind of capacity, because Kyle Boastman, that dude's the man. What about you? What do you think about that?
Honestly, yeah, I hadn't been checking into Gametrailers in quite some time. I was a fan of kind of just their gameplay. A lot of it came out, a lot of their videos, not the annoying kind of talking over stuff that most places did. But unfortunately, more and more, I feel like YouTube kind of like phased them out, like the need for that, just because there's so many people that can easily record, a silent walkthrough that you can easily just watch. Yeah, my biggest kind of wow, that's sucks, is that the fact that the employees themselves found out actually the same day that they were all being laid off.
Yeah,
it wasn't like a a thing that was known that was coming. Sorry, a plane just exploded outside of my house.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, they all kind of found out that day, which kind of blew me away. Just after 13 years, I'm like, how awful that must have felt. And just the fact that, to my knowledge, not a lot of them have kind of went out and established themselves in kind of YouTube and stuff like that, or even on their own thing. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but
well, kind of, I mean, so I think somebody like Kyle Boastman, he can go do his own thing. And since Gametrailers is gone, I don't know if he owns that. I mean, that's his name, clearly, but kind of the shtick of the show, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a thing that he would have to worry about, but I think somebody like that could definitely go on to do something successful on YouTube if that was their career choice per se. But I mean, I agree with you on what a shocker it was that they closed, and just the amount of people that got laid off with no warning. I mean,
yeah,
that's really terrible. And I do agree that I think the advent of YouTube really kind of did them in a way. I'm not saying that as a negative. It's just the reality of things. But I do really hope that the people that got laid off really recover. Especially, what was their CEO, or what was the guy's name? He always did the narrations in their freaking videos, and I mean, you recognize his voice a mile away. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Jeff Keighley?
No, it wasn't Dorito Pope. I think his name is Brandon Jones or something. I hope he lands somewhere, definitely. His voiceovers, in my opinion, I mean, not just my opinion, a lot of people's opinions, just legendary work, pretty much. He's just such an expert at narration, you know what I mean? And I mean, when he's talking about the game, it sounds very intelligent, and I mean, matter of fact, that they have a pretty concise point to make. So really hope he lands somewhere, as well as everybody else. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have on Gametrailers, in my opinion.
And just kind of a kind of amusing thing to end that on is they actually went back and gave their first and final 10 out of 10 to Bloodborne, of all games.
Actually, yeah. I can't believe I forgot about that. Yeah, when you told me that, I think the next day I saw it was on the Gametrailers YouTube page. Ironic. What do you call it? Bloodborne re-review. So I watched it, and it was pretty much the same video, but I saw that that was basically their only 10 out of 10, and I'm not gonna lie, I can't disagree with that 10 out of 10 assessment. You know what I mean? Bloodborne was pretty much a game. I played, I'm a fan of the Souls series, but I was never as hardcore as the usual people. But Bloodborne was the first one where it really sunk its hooks into me. But not only that, I really got into it, and I played the shit out of it basically, and beat it all the way through, did whatever optional things. I didn't platinum it mainly because the Chalice dungeons are so ungodly boring in my opinion. But aside from the Chalice dungeons, I pretty much did everything. I do have all 3 endings. So yeah, I was happy they went back and gave Bloodborne a 10 out of 10. Just a personal aside there. I think that's a game. I think that is the only game so far for me, at least this generation, that does deserve a 10 out of 10. What were your thoughts on them going back on it?
I mean, I think definitely it deserved it. I mean, just the amount of praise Bloodborne got, I felt was always deserving. I honestly wasn't a huge fan of Dark Souls, Demon Souls games. I just couldn't really get into them. Maybe it's because I was bad. I don't know. But Bloodborne, I actually managed to get invested in and actually got pretty good at. Beat the game maybe like twice. Helped. One of my favorite things is helping other people.
Yeah.
With the various bosses and stuff like that. And even playing with friends and helping them out, or like having them help me with some of the bosses I got stuck on. I haven't been able to go through the old hunters quite yet, just because my old save file got corrupted. But I'm actually really excited to go back and play through most of the game, and then getting to experience kind of the new DLC and area and bosses that they added in.
I mean,
but yeah, no, I definitely think it was well deserved. 10 out of 10 for them.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Bloodborne DLC goes, that's obviously I played the ever-living shit out of it, as you noticed. So whenever you go back, I can help you out on that. But I think that's one of those few games also where the DLC that came out, it was really like, I mean, I bought another copy of Bloodborne for it because I had sold mine originally. Obviously people don't know that, but I sold mine because I wasn't hearing any DLC news about it. Even after like a while of it being out, and then finally the DLC was announced and dropped fairly quickly, I'd say, after it was announced, and so I just had to pick it up, and I think the DLC for Bloodborne is equally as good as the game and something you won't be disappointed in, so I think you should look forward to that.
Definitely. Alright, so now getting off of that, moving on to somewhat lighter news.
I think a lot lighter news.
Yeah. Earlier this week, Quantum Break was actually announced for the PC as well. And it's actually stated that if you pre-order the digital version of Quantum Break for Xbox One, you also actually get a free copy for the Windows 10 edition. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think that's definitely neat. I saw quite a bit of backlash on this. I don't know, like, you want me to cover that first, or did you want to talk about it or anything first, or what?
You can share yours if you want.
I mean, okay, so as a new purchaser of an Xbox One, first off, I purchased mine during Black Friday 2015. Quantum Break was definitely a game that was something I was looking forward to. I like Remedy, and I love Alan Wake, and I love the original Max Payne and things like that. And Remedy is always just kind of trying things, and I mean, I think Quantum Break's a really obvious evolution of what they've been trying since Max Payne 1 with the graphic novel stuff. Anyways, it's something I'm excited for. I mainly bought my Xbox One for the exclusives. Make whatever jokes you want, but it does have some exclusives that definitely seem fun. Scalebound, Recore, stuff like that. The new Tomb Raider was great. And I did see a lot of backlash for it being announced for PC, and in all honesty, I don't see a problem with it coming out on PC. I mean,
yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The amount of people who are upset that other people get to experience the same game they do.
I just don't understand that, because for PCs it's a Microsoft thing, so I mean it's pretty obvious. But yeah, that's the other side of the argument too. It's like more people are just getting to enjoy it. And I mean, nowadays, in my opinion, since I have done PC gaming now, and I've been doing console gaming forever, like the consoles, in my opinion, sure, having exclusives is great. I mean, I just spent the last 10 minutes talking about Bloodborne, so obviously I agreed to an extent. But the consoles at the same time, I feel like are at this point, they're kind of entryways into PC gaming almost. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who buys a console is going to get into PC gaming. But it's just a very easy option for what you're essentially paying for now is a PC that can play the latest and greatest games. All you got to do is, put the disc in, might have some updates or something, but hey, you can play it. You don't have to worry about it, having all these graphics options like messing up your card or anything like that. It's just a very simple option. You know what I mean? Now, is it going to be the best quality all the time? No. But a lot of times it can come close. And many times, if you've never played the PC version of a game, it's not even going to matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't see the problem with Quantum Break coming out on PC.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it coming out to PC. Where my problem does lie is the fact that it is actually revealed it's going to only be a Windows 10 release, which, in my opinion, I feel like they pretty much killed the game on PC, and I feel bad for Remedy on that because from what I hear, the Windows 10 store is awful. Like, I haven't really used it myself, but just like when the Rise of the Tomb Raider came out, there are so many settings missing from it. You couldn't set like VSync and stuff like that. People were complaining about. There's just so many things, and it was so much more inferior to the Steam version of the game. And it's just why I don't know why they would tie it to that. And whoever was set in charge of that, I hope they either go back on it or are fired, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't buy this game on PC not because of that. I'm sure there are people who are excited and wanted to play this, but now that it's a Windows 10 thing, that they probably won't be getting it anymore, and it's completely understandable. It's a new thing, so I don't know why they'd bother taking that risk with such like kind of a big AAA game that a lot of people were hyped for. In my opinion, honestly, it's DOA already.
So wait a minute. So let's back up for a second, because this is something I only recently heard about. Mainly because you told me. And when you also say it's a Windows 10 release, obviously it's going to be on the Windows 10 store, but are you also meaning people who only have Windows 10 can run the game?
That I'm not sure. I don't know if the Windows 10 store would be the same as like the Windows store that you have access to with like Windows 8 or whatever, but I'm assuming if you have like Windows 7 and stuff like that where you don't have a kind of like the Windows Store app, unless you can download it, which I'm not sure to my knowledge. I don't believe you can actually buy it. Like, it almost seems like they're doing the whole like games with like Windows Live thing that they ended last year, 2 years ago, years whatever. But yeah, it seems like they're almost doing that again. Like, they're making essentially just another form of DRM that people have to worry about.
I mean, from the sounds of it right now, it does sound like definitely another terrible form of DRM. But I mean, at the same time.
Yeah, because the minimum and required specs for it does say Windows 10 64-bit for the OS.
Right, and I mean, I kind of chalk that up as like, marketing, just kind of specs that they released. Which, by the way, I mean, I want to gloss over this a little bit. Those specs, even the ones that are re-released, they're pretty insanely high, at least for the ultra settings. Now, I understand maybe they're projecting, from 1440p to 4K probably with the specs that they're asking for, but I mean, seriously, 980 Ti, R9 Fury X, 16 gigs of RAM, 4th Gen i7. I mean, these are the type of things that if people are interested in PC gaming and they've never done it and they look up these things and the prices of these things, this is what scares them away. It gives them a really bad idea of what PC gaming is, which is not this at all. I mean, it is this, but the amount of people that have PCs that are comparable to this, at least from what I've noticed around here, it's not like a high number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a really good PC right there, and it's just not like that. I think it really it might scare off some people, but I mean, yeah, definitely though the DRM thing. That's I guess we can tentatively call it DRM. That's a little bit disappointing, because if it came out on Steam, when I heard about the whole cross-buy thing essentially, or kind of like Blu-rays and DVDs do it now. You buy the Blu-ray, you get the DVD with it. I was pretty excited because I thought, okay, I'll play the game on my Xbox One, And at some point, I'm going to need to purchase a new GPU. But hey, look, now I'll have a game that I hope I can access on Steam to benchmark any new GPUs I get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now that, with this news coming out, I'm a lot more hesitant. Or not hesitant, but I'm a bit disappointed at this point because it's like, I don't really want to get it that way. You know me, like I'm basically Steam, and the only other thing I really use is Blizzard's Battle.net, but that's because I needed to play StarCraft and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't even have Origin, and Origin has some really good deals from what I understand, but I don't want that. That's the thing about PC gaming other people don't realize, actually. There's a bunch of it's almost like basically you built the PC to have the options of having an Xbox One and a PlayStation 4 and stuff because of all these different DRM platforms, you know what I mean? So it's a little funny in that regard.
Yeah. Well, for those that are actually still interested in it, if you want to purchase for Xbox One, the game does come out April 5th. The deal to pre-order to get the PC version, if you're interested in that still, it expires April 4th, which is a day before. Apparently, if you buy Quantum Break, you also get a copy of Alan Wake, as long as with its 2 DLC add-ons, The Signal and The Writer. And there's also people who pre-order the Xbox One version at only participating retailers. They'll also get Alan Wake's American Nightmare. On top of that, they're also releasing a Quantum Break Xbox One bundle. It's a white one again. Only 500 gigabytes though, so that's a little disappointing. Yeah, but it does come with Quantum Break and Alan Wake. That rhymes.
Quantum Wake.
So yeah, there's that if you are interested in that still.
Alan Break.
Alan make mistakes.
Alan, eat a Snickers. You're not you when you're like Quantum Break.
So stupid.
Sorry, the darkness. Anyways, though, speaking of darkness, why don't we talk about the Dark Zone and move into
nice segue.
Oh, thank you very much. And talk about the Division closed beta that we played, and also if you're excited about the open beta that's coming out this week. So I'll let you go ahead and lead off on that. What did you think about the closed beta that we played?
Despite numerous complaints that I kept reading about, not enough content and stuff like that, I actually really enjoyed the Division beta. Mm-hmm. I think I put somewhere like 15 to 20 hours into the beta alone, mm-hmm. Which is probably a mistake considering none of the progress actually transfers over. But no, it was so much fun. The beta only had one story mission, kind of set up base and stuff like that, mm-hmm. and like raid a hospital to get rid of like these bad guys. I don't know what exactly they were, if they're terrorists or something. His story wasn't really clicking with me or what was going on. But yeah, so that was okay. But where the real fun came in was, as you mentioned, the Dark Zone, mm-hmm. which, for those of you unfamiliar, is kind of the whole PvP area. It's an entire section of the city where PvP is always enabled. However, if you attack someone that hasn't attacked you first, you're marked as a rogue agent. Essentially, at that point, all hell breaks loose for you. If you're familiar with GTA Online, it's similar to when someone places a bounty on your head. Everyone can see where you are, and then whoever actually manages to kill you gets a reward. So that's definitely just very tense. Just if you're around other people, never knowing if they're just gonna shoot you in the back or what's going on. There's so many times when I was trying to be the better person or a good person and help out people, or not be a total dick and steal people's things, but which totally backfired on me because in the end they just did the same to me and just completely just betrayed me. Yeah, you go through, the AI is super difficult in that area, at least in the beginning stages. But yeah, once you start getting loot, you have to shoot a flare, call in a helicopter to extract all of your stuff, which a minute and 30 timer starts, or a minute timer. I forget how long it was exactly. And like everyone in the world can see pretty much that you're extracting right there, or that someone's extracting right there, and they can easily come over and like extract with you, or easily kill you and take your things that you were going to extract in the first place, and then take it for themselves. At that point, it is very tense. It's constantly. I would always hide whenever I called in an extraction, hiding behind boxes just in case anyone tried coming over. And as soon as that rope dropped down to like time my loot to, I just booked it to that rope and just put my things on as fast as I could. Then I just got the hell out of there. Some of the most tense and like fun gameplay I've had in a really long time. And, like playing it with you, Earl, and our friends Earl and Kyle. Just having a whole squad of people was actually really fun. Like hunting down other rogue agents, getting a ton of money from that. And then after a point, we kind of stopped being good guys, or like we were just so jaded to the point of like not trusting people, where we were starting to become like the bad guys and just killing people randomly. Of course we got what we deserved. People always hunted us down, but like just the chases, chasing people chasing us. Yeah, it was definitely some of the most fun I've had in a game in a long time. How about yourself? What did you think of it?
Well, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. No, no, I thought the Division beta was. Well, first off, I want to touch base on what you first said. Actually, not enough content thing. I didn't even understand, because people, this is a beta. This isn't.
Yeah.
Not the full game. What?
Yeah, so many people are like, there needs to be more, NPCs, or like, essentially they're pretty much arguing this needs to not be a beta.
I mean, like, yeah, like, I can see where people, like, the beta was lacking content, but it's a beta. But I think that also maybe stemmed a little from almost like a bad breakup with an ex. You have like those worries, and I think really a lot of those people might have been Destiny players. The first year of Destiny was a little bit like that, which is like, what the heck, man? There's not much fucking content here. Like, what's going on? So, okay, like I can see where that might have translated over, but at the same time, it shouldn't have.
Yeah, it's a beta. I feel like if anything, it was more of a server stress test.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's
and then
what betas
also
are for.
to figure out potential exploits, which there were exploits that people were doing and that were reported and stuff like that, which they're actually working on and actually removed for the upcoming beta, open beta. So luckily, the first one was closed, so it was more kind of isolated incidents and stuff like that. It's not like everything going to hell all at one time. So I definitely think it was a good idea that they did the closed beta. Now they're doing an opening beta shortly before the game comes out.
Right, definitely. So, but beyond that, I mean, in terms of the Division, it was really fun. Actually, I think I had a lot more fun with it than I initially thought I would. I was a little worried about the shooting mechanics and stuff like that. Those turned out pretty well. It's definitely an RPG first, shooter second. Although the shooting mechanics, I think, are just tight enough, and still tighter than a lot of other, shooters. And still tighter than a lot of RPGs out there that have shooter elements. So that's definitely good. I had fun playing with you guys. Definitely, it got a little repetitive, but obviously that was the beta. The Dark Zone stuff, though, that's what really took me by surprise. It wasn't something that I thought would really just kind of wow me like it did. But when we got in there, like, there was just a great atmosphere. I mean, the game has great art direction, by the way. But there was just a great atmosphere when you got in the Dark Zone. It was really cold. It was inviting but uninviting at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, you definitely want to explore it, but that if you go too far, you'll probably get fucked up. But it was really cool just kind of running through the streets, killing some bad guys, hiding around, and seeing like groups of other people like huddled closely together, and watching their back and front, and making sure like they're not getting ambushed and stuff like that. It was really even though I'm not a fan of the show or anything, it was really like a Walking Dead moment, like when they're they have those scenes where they're traveling down the roads and stuff like that in that show, and they kind of like, they definitely have to be on the lookout. So I feel like it definitely capitalized on a feeling like that, which was really interesting to me. And just having friendly fire in general in that kind of multiplayer arena is, even though it's been done before, I can't really explain why, but in this game, like, it feels unique, you know what I mean? And I mean, what I mean by it's been done before is, on smaller scale, like in games like Counter-Strike, or if it's like Grand Theft Auto, for example, where you can just kill anybody you want. But since this is so much of a combination of, teamwork that you have to rely upon, but you can betray them at any time, it's a pretty interesting concept, you know what I mean? But I thought overall the Division beta was just what it needed to be. Am I going to play the open beta? I might, depending. I mean, if you guys annoy me, which I'm sure you guys probably will, I'll play it. But I'm not really feeling the need to play it again until the game comes out. And I will be getting the game on launch because I think there's going to be enough content to justify that. I saw things that I'm definitely interested in. Obviously, I like the customization of my character, so I'm going to be into that. But weapon customization is really something I want to explore. And I've seen in some other sources that it's going to be pretty deep. So I'm crossing my fingers that it's deep. And the mission structure is the type of thing that, since I'm playing co-op with you guys, you remember when we got sucked into Diablo pretty much. I like loot games, And Diablo, sucked our time, 70, 80 hours of it. And I don't think this game is going to suck that amount of time, but it's something I'm definitely like. I really like playing these types of games with my friends. So I was happy with it, and I am going to get the Division on launch.
Yeah, I definitely think I'm going to get it on launch. I'll most likely end up playing the open beta. I just want to see kind of what changes they implemented into it, if any, that are noticeable on the PS4 version. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they removed like the exploits and stuff like that from like the PC versions and stuff. But yeah, it'd be really cool to see exactly what they might have learned just from that brief test. And if there's anything new that they're possibly going to throw in, or if it's going to be the exact same area or not, might kind of determine how much time I spend in it. If it's the exact same thing, just with a few gameplay tweaks, I may not spend as much time as I did, just so I don't kind of tire myself out on the game before it comes out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I typically don't pre-order games, but I honestly pre-ordered this one as I'm pretty excited for it. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it, and that comes out March 8th.
Yeah, March 8th. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
from my understanding. So that's pretty soon. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm looking forward to. And is there anything more you wanted to say about that?
No, that I pretty much got out what exactly my feelings on the game.
All right. Well, if there's no more layers to that one, then tell me, is there any more layers of fear in you? I'm so sorry for that. I
feel like I should just end this right now, and I hate you so much.
I'm so sorry, people. Go ahead and talk about layers of fear, Paul. Go ahead.
Well, next episode, Rayhan will not be joining me.
Yeah. First and last, guys. First and last.
But no. Layers of Fear, which actually comes out in 2 days on all systems, PS4, Xbox One, PC.
You know how much it is, by the way?
I don't, not off the top of my head. I'm assuming probably the same price. It's like $20 or so. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if it went up a little bit, but I'm pretty confident it's going to stay at $20. And no, so yeah, so far, I mean, I managed to play through all the way until the most recent ending part they have right now. There was still maybe like 2 more sections that I had to do until I was done with the game. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I got to experience most of it. And just kind of my impressions and, like, I guess the review, if you will. Mm-hmm. The game was fun. It was definitely creepy. I was playing with a Steam controller, so the camera was a little wonky at times. I'm still not quite used to that thing yet. But yeah, the game itself, the atmosphere is really good. The art style direction was beautiful. I loved seeing just kind of the houses, like the different ways they interpreted the houses, and kind of the main character's kind of descent into going crazy almost, which is shown by like the rooms kind of just, you turn around and like the door that was just there isn't there anymore, or you go down a hallway and you turn around and there's a completely different background behind you. You enter a room and like everything's upside down, or like you're standing on the ceiling or whatever. There was one I think that definitely tripped me out the most. Was I could have sworn I saw, like a couch or something right next to me, and like I looked away, but like when I turned around, like a couch and like a lamp on the wall and stuff like that, but when I turned back towards it, it turns out like I don't know if it's just transitioned in the time that I didn't see it, but like it was just a chalk outline on the wall.
Oh wow.
And like it just transitioned so smoothly to the point where I was like, am I going crazy? I was like, I'm pretty sure I just saw like a chair and a light there, but now there's literally nothing but like a chalk outline of like a lamp and a couch against the wall, which I thought was just the coolest thing. Definitely a good amount of scares. They're not too in your face. They're not just like walking down a hallway then like boo, like just typical kind of shitty jump scares that a lot of like horror games do nowadays.
Right.
But yeah, no, definitely it definitely was creepy. It had a lot of suspense, but at the same time, after a while, it kind of, not tiring, but it just lost its effect. I mean, maybe it helped that it didn't help that I played through the whole thing in one sitting. It's not, that particularly long of a game, at least to the point where it was before. Yeah, maybe I'm sure it'll be a little longer once it fully comes out in 2 days. But where I got to then, it got a little less effective, and like, something maybe like startled me. I'm like, oh. But like certainly wasn't the beginning. Like the first, I'd say like hour or two is definitely its strongest point to me. But then after that, not that it's bad or it gets bad or anything like that, but the scares definitely lose their effect. Because I mean, you can't, to my knowledge, you can't die. There's like no real threats in the game. Essentially, what people call a walking simulator. It's kind of like that, but with scares thrown in. There are really no puzzles or anything like that, or like things for you to figure out or solve per se.
Yeah.
It's just you kind of walking down a hallway, PT style, kind of. Like even PT kind of had a harder puzzle solving kind of system going on.
Yeah, I mean PT in and of itself was a puzzle.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but yeah.
So, but it's something that you recommend.
I'd say yeah.
Well, but
I'd say for $20.
For $20, yeah, because I think I remember though you got it on sale, right? But wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Would you recommend it for $20?
After playing it, yeah, I'd say it's worth $20. Especially with it coming out, and if it still is $20, I'd say it's a pretty good buy if you're into horror games. Don't expect a lot to do other than walking around. Well, okay, I lied earlier. There is maybe like 1 or 2 small puzzles, but it's honestly just like finding, there's a number on the wall, and then just so happens to be in that same room there's something that needs that particular number. It's like, super easy puzzle solving. It's not like, several rooms before you saw like, 4, 5, 6, and then, now you need to enter a lock code. It's most of the time it's literally like, 2 feet in front of me is a lockbox with like a 3-digit code. He's like, oh, you light this candle, then what do you know, a 3-digit code shows up on this painting out of nowhere. So it's stuff like that, very base kind of puzzle-ish solving, if you would even call that a puzzle. But yeah, so there is that. But yeah, don't expect a ton of to do. Just kind of go into it to appreciate the atmosphere, the sound design, do the scares. Just go in with it with an open mind. But yeah, I definitely recommend it for what it is right now, and especially when it's fully completed and released.
Oh, okay. And ironically, I was just looking up things on the game as you reviewed it. I see IGN's review here. Gave it a 5.8, called it a mediocre.
Jesus.
So the complete opposite of everything you said, but that's
which is surprising because on Steam it has like a 96% positive rating.
Well, I mean, excuse me. A lot of people in these comments are not happy. They're definitely, a lot of them are saying some pretty nasty things right now. But I'm not going to get into that.
Well, that's every IGN comment section.
That's very true.
Yeah, like Layers of Fear right now has 2,830 reviews, and yeah, it has a 96% positive rating on Steam.
Well, I mean, I have not played the game all the way through or anything, but I did play a little bit of it. You were actually witness to me playing it. The witness, no pun intended. But, I mean, yeah, from what I played, it was fun, and it was definitely something I'd want to, get through myself. Definitely scary, but, I mean, the thing that you mentioned that it's not very scary all the way through, I mean, that's kind of understandable. It's like when we both started playing Outlast, like a few years ago, and, I mean, that game was really scary at the beginning, but, I mean, as I played more, I just kind of, realized, all right, like, even though I can die in this game, I can, pretty much run away in parkour from most of these enemies, so it really lost a lot of its scare factor, but it was still a really fun game to me, one that I would definitely be willing to finish. So I'm excited to play Layers of Fear. It's probably not as terrible as IGN is saying it is, but I'm definitely looking forward to playing Layers of Fear. And just to give an example or comparison, GameSpot's Layers of Fear review is 7 out of 10. So
GameSpot 7 out of 10. Has a 4. I mean, it's only 14 reviews right now on Metacritic. PC Gamer gave it a 63. Wow. Well, 64 out of 100. Yeah, so it's seems very widely panned.
Well, not panned, but like
videogamer.com I've never heard of, but it's 7 out of 10.
Oh wow.
Destructoid, what did they give it? A 7. So it's definitely varying. I feel like that tends to be the case with a lot of horror games.
Yeah, and I mean, especially these walking simulators, which we will definitely get into at the end in terms of varying. We will definitely get into that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Layers of Fear. So I just wanted to kind of shift gears a little bit. I mean, the Dualcast podcast, as we did say earlier, it is also about movie and entertainment news as well. And I just kind of wanted to briefly, or maybe not so briefly, mention, news in that regard today. So right now, Deadpool is the talk of the town for, movies, as far as movies go. And tonight, actually, HBO will be premiering their new series from Boardwalk Empire creator Terrence Winter, and that series is called Vinyl, starring Bobby Cannavale, and it will be a 2-hour-long premiere directed by Martin Scorsese. So I'm pretty excited about that because, I mean, that's pretty much like getting a new Martin Scorsese movie right out of the gate. So that's pretty fun. But let's backtrack just a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about Deadpool. I've not seen Deadpool, and neither have you, Paul, right?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so yeah, neither of us have seen Deadpool. I know, blasphemy, but I'm not really the biggest fan of the character, nor have I gone out of my way to actually read up on the character. So that's definitely one contributing reason as to why I haven't seen it. What about you, Paul? Why haven't you seen it yet? Just
I have no friends, so okay, I haven't been able to see it.
You're not my friend, you're just my coworker.
And we also don't live in the same state, so...
That's true, but that's actually never stopped us from watching movies, so...
But yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet, just I haven't gotten the chance. I mean, it just came out literally, 2 days ago?
Friday.
Friday.
I'll
most likely end up seeing it sometime this week, maybe. We'll probably end up talking about it on the next episode, more in depth, and, our reviews, rather. But yeah, I mean... Deadpool's always been kind of interesting. You know, I haven't read up too much on him, but, you know, I am familiar with some of his antics in the past. Like, I know the whole, you know, self-aware kind of character, you know, funny Merc with a mouth type deal that people describe him as. You know, comic book series like Deadpool Kills Everyone, which I read some of. Yeah, no, I think from what I've seen, Ryan Reynolds does a great job, like just from the trailers and stuff like that, and I can tell it definitely seems like he's passionate. And I think the reason why the movie's doing so well is that it was made by people who are actually passionate about the movie. Yeah, you know, whereas people try to make a Fantastic Four movie and it just bombs every time because honestly, who cares?
Well, I mean, that's something I wanted to touch upon, actually. Even though I'm not really, like, the biggest fan of Deadpool or anything like that, I think it's pretty important that Deadpool is doing so well right now. In fact, didn't it just pull in a 200 some odd million worldwide recently?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and that's in its opening weekend. That's huge. You know, like, that's huge for any movie, let alone an R-rated film. An R-rated superhero film, you know what I mean? Yeah. I know superheroes are, like, you know, pretty much the trend right now, but as far as that type of, you know, darker kind of superhero type thing, that tone, you know, we've seen films like this in the past. You know, I don't think Deadpool is anything new. We've seen it with, like, Kick-Ass and stuff like that. That clearly didn't do the numbers that Deadpool did, but I'm pretty sure that was a pretty successful film. But, you know, I'm pretty excited that Deadpool is doing this well because, I mean, I'm sure it's probably a good movie. Some of the reviewers I watch on YouTube, very trusted reviewers, they gave it really positive reviews. So I'm willing to definitely watch it to, you know, see if it's a good film. But I think it's just going to be a good push for, like, you know, getting some R-rated versions of superheroes that we really need onto the screen. You know what I mean? I'm not the biggest fan of the superhero movies coming out lately. I do like Captain America Winter Soldier, but, you know, most of the Marvel stuff is just kind of to me. And seeing a darker tone would be nice.
Definitely. Especially after, like, one that comes to mind is, like, Avengers Age of Ultron.
God. Oh, my God.
Yeah. You know, which has I feel like had a lot of potential, but it's just kind of reduced to, you know, quips and little witty one-liners from everyone, even the villain. And it's just, you know, it's very...
It's all the same.
It's so, like, kind of PG and, like, not... Like, there's literally a part in the beginning where Captain America says language to Iron Man saying shit. So I thought that was kind of dumb. Like, I just feel like they tried too hard at some points. And you're like, look how funny we are.
Right, yeah. And I also feel like, at least the structure of those movies, it really makes it feel like there's not really too much at stake. I don't think this person or that person's really going to die. And I'm not saying an R rating is going to change that, you know, totally, but at the same time, I mean, Deadpool's doing really well. It's R-rated. From what I understand, it's, you know, true to the source material, but a great adaptation for what it needed to be for a film as well. And I mean, I would like to see, you know, like an R-rated Ghost Rider movie maybe. Or even, I understand that Punisher is in season 2 of Daredevil coming out. But since you know, Deadpool did so well.
Didn't they also recently announce he's getting his own show?
That's what I'm saying is since Deadpool did so well, like, and especially since Deadpool has graphic violence, maybe in the Punisher series they're just going to be like, hey, you know, like, we're just going to make this like a TVMA rated. I mean, they are TVMA rated, but, you know, we're going to go full on R level kind of, you know, graphic violence, whatever's needed. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be gratuitous or anything for something like The Punisher, but, you know, and Daredevil is actually really violent, like R-rated levels of violence. But, you know, there were just some situations where I was a little surprised, like, you know, like, I'm surprised like an F-bomb wasn't thrown around or anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's not that it's completely necessary. I think sometimes, given whatever situations they're in, it'd be a little more natural to fit into. But I'm pretty happy that Deadpool is doing well. So that's pretty much what I really had to say about that. And I mean, actually, also add to that, because you were telling me how Todd McFarlane just finished up his script for essentially the reboot of Spawn. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Were you ever like, you know, beyond just Spawn looks cool? Like, did you ever actually like watch any like Spawn stuff?
I saw the movie with like John Leguizamo and stuff like that.
Oh, your uncle?
Yeah. Fuck you. But yeah, then I mean, I'm pretty sure wasn't there a cartoon series like Max or something like that?
The cartoon series was actually done by HBO, surprisingly.
Yeah, like that one. I remember being interested in that. I was pretty young when all that stuff came out, so it's honestly not too fresh in my mind. But I remember thinking, you know, it was interesting and like badass. But that was kind of the extent of it. I didn't really think more into it than that. So
yeah, I mean, as a kid, I was a really big fan of Spawn. I did see it with the movie, so nothing to be ashamed of. But after that, like my brother and I, we were even though the movie was really bad, which at the time we didn't really know or even comprehend. Just the world of Spawn is so, like, you know, there's a dearth of things that are interesting. And so I basically had like a little bit of an obsession as a kid with Spawn. Seeked out any little thing we could. I played the awful PlayStation game, which I didn't admit to myself till years later that it was terrible. And I did see the HBO cartoon, actually. I didn't know it was HBO at the time. The cartoon was fantastic. It was really, really well voice acted from what I remember. And the stories were just... It was really extremely dark.
Yeah.
And I think you also told me Todd McFarlane said the script that they wrote is definitely going for like a hard R.
I saw that somewhere. I didn't exactly see the source for that, but from what I was reading, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if Todd McFarlane's going for a hard R with Spawn, and I mean, you know, something like Deadpool doing well, I mean, that only gives more hope for the future of, you know, some R-rated comic book properties, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, there is that. And since we're talking about HBO a little, you know, Vinyl is premiering tonight, February 14th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a 2-hour premiere, like I said. I'm pretty excited for the show. I was a fan of Boardwalk Empire, and I think Terrence Winter is a fantastic writer. I feel like you don't know what Vinyl is, Paul, or do you know, are you excited about it all?
I've seen maybe like 1 or 2 trailers for it, but honestly, that's the extent of my, you know, knowledge of the show. Like, it looked interesting, and I mean, it has a good director tied to it and stuff like that, so I'm sure it'll be good.
Okay. Do you think you'll be tuning in tonight, or at least at some point just to check it out and, you know, see?
I might not tune in like right away, at least, you know, when it airs, but I'm sure at some point, like if I hear good things about it, yeah, I might check it out over the week. You know, I have HBO Go, so I can easily just bring up the episode. So I'll probably look into that just sometime over the week.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely excited about it, mainly because, as I said, Martin Scorsese's directing it, and for me, you know, it's like, if Scorsese is directing it, even if it gets bad reviews, I have to, you know, give it a chance. But, you know, Vinyl so far has not been getting bad reviews, so that's good. And it's a 2-hour premiere. It's getting a new Scorsese movie, so I'm pretty excited. I'll share a little bit of my thoughts on the next podcast, but I just wanted to say that, you know, Boardwalk Empire was good. I hope Vinyl is just as good. And if it does last as many seasons as Boardwalk, then please, I really hope the later seasons are not as... just terribly paced as Boardwalk's later seasons are, specifically season 5. But yeah, so that's basically just what I wanted to say about Vinyl. And is there any other movie news or anything you wanted to cover?
Just real quick, I mean, if you wanted to touch on official final trailer of Batman v Superman came out earlier this week, and yeah, I actually thought that looked pretty damn awesome. Just like the fight scene in the beginning with like Batman, it reminded me kind of like an Arkham game. Mm-hmm. Just kind of like, you know, how it bursts through the window and stuff like that. And yeah, no, the fight scene, the kind of focus on Batman and like Ben Affleck as Batman was like really interesting in the episode trailer. And yeah, then especially I'm sure it's a lot of other people's best like part of the trailer is when the look on Superman's face when Batman like blocks his like punch or whatever, like is actually able to like hold him off. I thought that was pretty awesome, and I'm just curious as to exactly how they're going to go about it, and if they're sticking to
Dark Knight
Returns and stuff like that, like Kryptonite in a suit or anything like that. So I'm definitely excited to see those fights play out.
All right, I mean, yeah, definitely. I saw the trailer too, and I'm definitely actually. Do I want to say excited? Yeah, I mean, cautious excitement. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. So I'm cautiously excited for Batman v Superman. I thought the trailer before this one was really terribly edited, and it gave away a lot. But it was still exciting. This one, the opening though, oh my goodness. Watching that Batman fight scene and just the tone of it and everything like that, part of me really just wished it was just a singular Batman movie. You know what I mean? Like, that looked amazing. It was it seemed like a great combination of kind of the groundedness we got with the Christopher Nolan stuff, at least in terms of aesthetic, but then definitely playing up the comic book stuff that Zack Snyder is known for.
Yeah.
But as far as like the Batman v Superman side of everything, it definitely sparks my interest more, and I was pretty hyped when they were duking it out a little, and Batman had his arm on Superman's, and Superman just basically had that face. It was at that moment Clark knew he fucked up. So I'm excited about that. Do I think it's gonna be the greatest film in the world? No, and I'm really. What I'm more curious about is how well it's going to be paced. It just seems like there's like a million elements.
Yeah, definitely.
And if somebody, drops one of these balls they're juggling, or fucks up that Jenga tower, like, they're screwed. You know what I mean?
Much, yeah.
I have confidence in them, though. I think, what do you call it? I'm pretty sure the writer of Argo is writing this. So that's a good sign. Argo... Well, I don't think should have won Best Picture that year, but that's a whole nother discussion. Argo was a great film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like if they can keep that kind of quality with Batman versus Superman, then we're gonna be in good hands. We're gonna be in good hands. So that's pretty much my thoughts on that.
Sounds good. So getting to the last part of our show is Firewatch, which we are just dying to talk about. You probably had the more fresh experience. I played through the whole game, the day it came out. So, I mean, if you want to go first, that's totally cool. I mean, how you wanted to approach this exactly. And by the way, in case you forgot, in the beginning, there are spoilers in this. We won't dig into everything super deep. To be honest,
we won't?
Okay, we will.
There's a chance that will happen, but yes. I'll see
to be
how
honest,
it naturally goes.
Not a whole lot happens in the game, so not particularly spoiling much. But yeah, did you want to go ahead and start that, or?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so Firewatch. All right, so I know Firewatch was definitely like a game we were talking about reviewing for our thing, since we're starting this up, and it just kind of landed in our lap, coincided with the things that we were doing. And also, full disclosure, it's a game that we bought. No codes or anything were ever given to us. But anyways, so I didn't really look too much into Firewatch besides like what was shown at like those E3s that they showed it off at, and a few of the trailers they dropped, which, I mean, even then, they didn't really say much in those trailers, and they never really hinted at too much of the story. But from what I did see, I saw a great art style. I think it was an artist named Ollie Moss. I'm not really familiar with his work, but I do remember watching another podcast recently, and they were talking about how the Resistance poster for Resistance 3 specifically was drawn by Ollie Moss. So that guy's a great artist. But I thought, this game looked great visually, and whatever the story is, it looks interesting enough. It's a walking simulator, whatever. So this was one of the few games also, so basically that I did not look too much up on. Anyways, fast forward, we come to the release night, or release day, because we couldn't preload that game, right?
No. I mean, it let me preload a little bit on Steam, but I ended up having to re-download it anyways when it actually did release, so.
Yeah, which is a little insane. But anyways, so let me share my thoughts on the game. I played it on the PlayStation 4, you played it on PC. So I feel like it's good that we got fresh perspectives on it.
Yeah.
Initially when the game started, I thought, okay, this has my interest definitely. It's character driven. The story seems like it could go somewhere very dark, maybe, or just very deep, at least in the realm of gaming. Although I thought the presentation was a little bit shaky. I mean, I don't know about you, but when the game started and it had the whole text thing, and I just kind of waited there for a little bit, and then I realized I had to press X. I don't know about you.
I wasn't expecting it to start out like that at all, like a whole text-based, choose your own adventure type deal.
Yeah. So that was, at first I was a little, taken aback by it. So I was like, okay. But anyways, so let me just share my thoughts. The story is basically about a man named Henry, who I'm not going to spoil, but he has some issues with his wife. And, the story takes place in 1989, at least when the player is, taking control. And it's about a man named Henry. He has some issues with his wife, and so he basically gets away from the issues by taking a summer job as a fire watchman in, a forest in Wyoming. Obviously Firewatch, fire watchman, it's in the title. So that's pretty much the basic setup and gist of the story. And from there, as far as narrative meets gameplay, it's essentially the story of Henry and this other character named Delilah, who, spoilers, you never see, but she's essentially your boss, and she always talks to you through this radio in the game, and she gives you instructions on what to do, just kind of mundane things to do your job, and that's basically what consists of the gameplay in a semi-open world that I don't think it's an open world at all. I think it's actually a really restrictive environment, in my opinion. But that's pretty much the game. So as far as thoughts and stuff like that, I kind of want to make this into a conversation more, not just, me rambling on about it. So, what was your initial impressions of the story?
Initially, I mean, like you, I was completely... I went into this game completely blind. I really hadn't even heard about this game until, the week it was coming out. Mm-hmm. When, a trailer came out, and it actually looked interesting. So, and then, I kept hearing more and more about it, and I didn't really want to watch the full trailer because I didn't want to get anything spoiled for me. I wanted to have a completely kind of open mind going into it.
Yeah.
So I was pretty blind going into it, but initially starting the game, I mean, I enjoyed it. I related a lot to Henry, just in terms of his personality, kind of his dry, sarcastic, asshole-ish humor.
Oh, I did too. And I thought, and actually, while we're on that subject, the voice acting, by the way, in this game, phenomenal.
Definitely
11 out of 10, if I could give that. So 11 out of 10. So, but continue.
But yeah, going off of that, I mean, just I couldn't help but for the good first half of the game, I couldn't help but to grin and smile at the conversation that Henry and Delilah were having with each other.
Yeah.
Just because they had such great chemistry with each other. Even though they're not physically next to each other or anything like that, it's just the constant sarcasm that they threw at each other. I answered her pretty much every time she called, because you do have the choice not to say anything at all for most of the game. So yeah, so I talked to her every chance I had, and I just love the interaction that they had with it. Like I wish, kind of the initial joking and stuff like that last so much longer than it did. So I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in that sense that I love the chemistry. The voice acting, as we said, is amazing. And I really, really was enjoying like the days kind of slowly. Well, I don't really want to say slowly. Like it went from like day 1, day 2, and then like day like 66. Like yeah. It was a really weird pacing. But I really enjoyed that aspect of just the natural conversation. Like it was so natural. Like this is just how people talk a lot of times. I thought. And especially if you have like two kind of quick-witted people together, I would say definitely that's how people talk.
Definitely, yeah.
So I really enjoyed like that just balance of seriousness and levity, and Henry's sense of humor with Delilah's sense of humor. It was really great, and I thought when they did finally start kind of forming a bond and telling each other, about themselves, I thought that was really interesting for sure. It did get to that semi-strange part where I think it was implied that they had like phone sex or walkie-talkie sex. I'm not even gonna lie, but at the same time I was like, okay, I mean that makes sense. It's like day like 80 and like they're alone as shit and drunk. Yeah, like I could see that happening, even if you're embarrassed to admit it. Like I could see it happening. So like but then that's also where the game, I thought, not that specific scene, but I thought that's where the game also failed me, in my opinion, as a narrative. It wasn't even due to any kind of expectation I had, because I really didn't really watch anything besides like a trailer or two and a little bit of gameplay that probably we couldn't avoid while watching like an E3 thing. But that's where it failed me, in my opinion, because it started off with, this thing with the wife and blah, 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 getting away, discovering yourself. And then it quickly, basically, it pulls a switch and it starts concentrating on a mystery aspect that's set up at the beginning of the game fairly well, in my opinion. I mean, at least in terms of atmosphere and kind of scaring the player. Because, you're in these woods, and it's at night, and you do see, like, a figure in the woods. But it really switches gears. And then when it switches gears, it's also, I think, at the height of when Henry and Delilah's relationship is about to get really, more in-depth. Add even more layers to it. And I thought, wow, why is it doing this? Maybe it'll go back to it. But no. I mean, it switched gears to that mystery, and it was very abrupt. It was just
definitely. I feel almost like, halfway through the game or whatever, they just like stopped, like putting it like suddenly like the writers changed or like a completely different team of writers or something like that. Because after a while, like it completely shifts gear. Like we talked about this a little bit, but I enjoyed the whole like mystery element and stuff like that, and I think because. The fact that I thought my decisions mattered in the scheme of things. Mm-hmm. For example, there's a point where, it's like the first day or two, like first or second day. There's like these two women skinny dipping and lighting off fireworks, and you have to go down and like, tell them to cut the shit or whatever. And you can approach it in different ways. You can be a jerk. Or it's really only jerk or like pushover really at that point. Yeah. So I was a bit of a dick. I threw their boombox in the river and stuff like that.
I did too.
For some reason, Henry didn't feel the need to explain that he's a ranger or something, or to shout that out. So like the whole time they thought I was just like some peeping Tom or something like that.
Which didn't make sense to me. It's like, why would you?
Yeah, like when you like forest preserve or whatever. But. Yeah, so then pretty much, your place gets like broken into and like a message is left and you find like the girl's stuff and like, you assume it's them like getting, I guess, revenge for you like peeping on them or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then like later on, Delilah tells you that like they went missing and that no one's heard from him for a few days. And you get to ask you, like, she asked you what she should tell the police, like, if they ask, like, did you talk to her?
Let's back up for a second. So in your game, did you see the black figured man pointing the flashlight at you?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure. It's like I hope you didn't miss that.
No, I saw the guy. Which I thought was a hilarious line afterwards when he brought up to, I don't know if he reported to Delilah, but I brought it up to her and she was like, there's something I didn't tell you about this place. It's
outside.
Outside, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. She was like, oh, people come and go all the time. I was like, oh, that was a good one. But yeah, no, they go missing, and then Delilah asks what she should say to the police. I told her, just don't say anything. Just like pretend we didn't have any interaction with it whatsoever, because I didn't want to end up getting sucked into it. Just because my actions could have been interpreted as maybe hostile. I don't know, but yeah. So it's just, but then later on, that whole like mystery is completely brought up again, and they're just like, oh yeah, no, they're fine.
I mean, like, that the thing though, it's like you bring up a really good point. It's like, why didn't he just mention he was a Firewatch ranger?
Yeah. It's like easily could have been like, I'm absolutely not peeping on you. I'm doing my job. You need to just cut this shit, or else you're gonna get kicked out of the park.
Slight bit of like conflict or like, and that's the thing. Actually, there's a lot of this game at least in terms of situations presented. It's so forced. Like, let me give you the best example ever of a forced situation. Well, in the game, there is an area where there is a large fence around the entire perimeter of this park, and you need to get in. Well, Henry, being a forest ranger, and, you didn't just spend the last at least 2 hours of the game with yourself, climbing rocks and shit. You didn't do that. Well, Henry decides, at this point, my arms are useless and I'm an idiot. And
it's not like the fence had barbed wire or anything of the sort.
Yeah,
like
I can't climb this fence. And and to add insult to injury, I mean, not only that, there's literally rocks to the left or right of the character that the character can perfectly climb if this was any other game without these ridiculous invisible walls, and just kind of jump over the fence with no trouble at all. But
pretty much,
what does the game force you to do instead? It forces you to take an entire detour all the way to the other side of the game's map, which is surprisingly kind of large, or maybe not large, but since you're walking and really your running speed is so goddamn slow, it just feels like it takes forever to get there. But it forces you all the way to a different side of the map to get an axe to open the door to the fence. It was at that point the game just... I'm not gonna lie, the game lost me. I mean, what about you?
Yeah, no, honestly, that bugged the hell out of me. I was like the whole time, because I was like, because the whole point is you go to you're supposed to go to a scout camp because you're going to have these guys help you open up the fence. And you get there, and what do you know? No one's there. But it just so happens to be that they left an axe stuck in a conveniently placed post. So you took that, and like, it's just, I felt it was so unnecessary because, I mean, you brought it, you use it maybe like once or twice. You cut down a tree to cross a bridge or something like that, if you want to go back that way. But yeah, then you break the lock, and then you like almost never use the axe again. Like, it was completely pointless. And at that point, I was already getting pretty frustrated with the navigation, as you mentioned, just because like, the map is fairly large for for a bit, but it's like a fucking labyrinth, like with the twists and turns of some of the trees and stuff like that. And like, don't get me started on like the map. Like, the map is probably one of the most useless maps I've ever seen in a video game. And it's just like, sure, there are like little leading trails to show where you came from, but I was like, why would you show me that and not, which way I'm facing or anything, that would make sense? Like Minecraft has better map mechanics than this game did. Like it shows you where you're headed and like which direction you're looking at. But yeah, and it's just I constantly kept getting lost. Like one wrong turn literally throws you down one wrong path, because on the map it looked like I was going in the right direction, but then once I checked again, somehow I am just like fucking 2 miles away from where I should actually be. Or at one point I was going in the complete opposite direction of where I needed to go, because one of the twists and turns took me, like, completely turned me around. And there's so many easy paths that I saw that I could have taken, but nope, invisible wall. Which bugged me to no end. There's so many areas that I was like, oh, I could walk over here, but oh wait, there wasn't even like a rock or anything that logically would make sense for me to stop in my tracks. Like, it was literally just air that was solid and I couldn't pass. And that bugged me. There were like rocks and stuff I couldn't jump on. I kept getting stuck on every little damn thing, like every little rock. It would just completely stop me in my tracks. There were like branches that were like knocked over, and I was like, oh, these look like you can walk on them, and because there are other branches in the game you can walk on and get across. I was like, oh, I could probably walk across this and get to somewhere. Nope, reached like the top of the branch, can't do anything else. And of course, trying to get back down the same way you just came up, like, you're just getting stuck on the branches, which were no problem walking up it, but apparently walking down, it's just they're stabbing your legs and you can't walk anymore. It was just frustrating. It was like jilty, like trying to go back down it. It's just very frustrating. Like, I enjoyed the game for the most part, like the story and voice acting and stuff, but just the gameplay, like the navigation, the map, like all of that, I feel like they didn't focus enough on that. Like they put it into the voice acting and stuff like that, and they just forgot about the gameplay and not to be frustrating.
No, I totally agree with you on the technical aspects, and I mean, going back just a little bit, that whole thing with the scout camp, thank you for reminding me where it was. It's just another example of how poorly thought out or written the second half is because the only reason you're at that scout camp, beyond the technical reason of getting that axe or finding people to help you, it's just a really poorly written way of essentially giving some background information on that.
It was just a fetch quest.
On that brown,
is what it was.
Well, yeah, but it was a really poorly written way of giving exposition and in-depth background on that Brian kid that essentially took over the second half of the story. Which, I mean, good Lord, that was poor. But since we're on this subject of technical, let me tell you about my experience at least. I mean, I agree with you about the map, and I mean, maybe I'm stupid, but the navigation, in my opinion, was pretty terrible. The gameplay overall is pretty mediocre. Like, I know this is a walking simulator, but good Lord, is it bad. I was really astonished that, you walk slow, which is whatever to me. You run pretty slow, whatever to me, but just the amount of invisible walls, it's contradictory to what you're trying to do. Okay, so I understand it kind of makes you want to feel like an explorer with the map and compass, blah, 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 but then there's so many set linear paths. So why bother? You know what I mean? And nothing is really distinctive enough, in my opinion at least, right away, that you'd be like, okay, I gotta go here, then here, then here. You know what I mean? Yeah. That map is really awful. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's terrible. And the fact that you can't even fucking run while the map is in your hand, that's just insane. I mean, you can, but I'm talking about when you're zoomed in and stuff like that. Like, no, that's stupid. Furthermore, though, to add on top of that, now I don't know how it was on your PC. You're running, a 750 Ti, right? So, a mid-range card, but this game, I feel like it should run fine on a fucking laptop that was made this year. That's, like $500 or something. Like, I was astonished at the PlayStation 4's awful performance. And I mean awful. You know, this isn't like a PC fanboy thing or anything like that. I'm astonished. I mean, this game looks no better than Team Fortress 2. Let's just get that out there straight. At least from a technical level, it really doesn't. But the graphics look pretty poor in a lot of areas with low resolution textures and things like that. Other things, though, that happened to me, I mean, seriously, the frame rate at times would go into the single digits, especially when he turns around and he climbs, like, downstairs.
Yeah.
So that was awful.
From what I read, I don't know if it was confirmed, but I think people are saying it's because it was built on a Unity engine, which apparently doesn't work very well with the PlayStation 4.
I mean, that's surprising because, I mean, like, there was not only that, but another thing is, like, the acceleration of your turning, it's really slow, and then all of a sudden it just jerks really fast. I don't know what the hell is up with that. I don't know if that happens with a mouse, but that was really odd. Not only that, add even more insult to injury, I had I had hard crashes of the game where I almost did want to give up, even though I know it's a short game. I was so not invested in it that I thought, fuck this. Fuck this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I continued on with 2 hard crashes, these awful, awful frame rates. In my opinion, weird controls. I mean, like the D-pad to select things, and you know, your R1 button is literally mapped to nothing. So why the fuck didn't you, like? It doesn't make any sense. So from a pure technical standpoint, and I don't recommend getting the PlayStation version until it's patched. It runs terribly. But I mean, yeah, you know, getting back to the narrative side of things, though. So the technical doesn't really work for it. In my opinion, gameplay mediocre to even below mediocre. But then we have the narrative switch, which is just an awful abrupt switch. And then, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, there's no payoff. Okay, you know, I'd be okay with that to an extent. If the game itself was good in terms of the narrative, but it's not. People are right. You know, at the end, when, you know, what happens, it's like, that's it? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, like, one of the worst things is, at least as far as narrative, it's like this game is 2 different narratives, and then neither narrative gets an arc. Neither the mystery nor the human aspect of it. I mean, sure, like the thing with the kid, you get an answer, but there's not really any kind of arc to that's really satisfying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it feels like that portion didn't get an arc because it's so sloppily just presented, and in my opinion, written. It's just like, why? And the Henry Delilah thing, it's so pointless because really your decisions don't make any difference in how the story turns out for them.
Pretty much.
And the other thing is, it's like, all right, I understand, you know, art imitating life sometimes, kind of, but it's like, I mean, damn. There's a thing of having no arc, and you can do it sometimes, but these characters had no arc. They didn't change from where they began. You know, if anything, I feel like they were showing even shittier versions of themselves. You know what I mean? So, I mean, overall, I don't want to give it any numbers or anything, but I really don't recommend Firewatch. The only way I could recommend it is if it was on sale and you were really curious about the game. I would say get it and, you know, form your own thing. But at $18 or $20, however much it is now, I don't recommend it, especially not on PS4 because it has a host of technical issues. I don't care if Unity doesn't run well on there. I mean, get it to.
Yeah.
You know? Get it to. That's not an excuse. You know what I mean? It's just not. And I don't really, you know, it's not something that even has replay value. So, yeah, I don't recommend the game.
Yeah, but pretty much covering, you know, the last 2 things you're talking about. Technical, for the most part, the game ran well, but I did definitely notice frame rate drops like every now and then. I honestly wasn't sure if it was my computer or if it was the game, but after more and more, like, it had to be the game because I almost never have problems with most games I run, and especially one, you know, not as really demanding as this.
It's not demanding at all. I mean, it barely needs a gig of VRAM on its Steam page, apparently. But
and I just noticed just numerous frame rate drops. There was times this part, I don't know if it was just like my recording equipment or what, but like the audio completely cut out. Like during one of them, I was pissed because like a song was starting, like you found a tape, and like I was playing that, and like the music was actually pretty nice sounding, and then just suddenly complete audio just failure for no reason. And like, you know, my mic and my headset worked fine like once I like exited the game and stuff like that, but for some reason it just randomly just stopped. I don't know what that was about, if that was a game problem or if that was just a coincidental problem with my computer that happened at the same time. But yeah, so that was pretty annoying. Controls, they were pretty damn annoying for me. I brought this up several times to you before, where like I'm so used to like left shift being running in like essentially you know any game ever.
Yeah.
You know, I typically play games with a controller, even on like PC and stuff like that. But like I felt just to play this one on keyboard and mouse. But yeah, this time I wish I had used the controller, because just instead left shift this time was to, you know, pretty much answer your walkie-talkie. And in order to like select your answer, you have to hold shift, and then you have to like arrow down. You can't like WASD like pick your selection because that would still make you move. So you have to hold shift. You have to like go and press the up and down key, and then in order to like lock in your answer, you have to let go of shift, which is completely absurd. And R is to run, which R run, but also R for reply would have made sense as well. And then, map could have easily been like Q or E, but not, M. I don't know if they're just trying to be like, oh, M for map. Like, just if everything's already kind of centered in the same area, like, don't make one vital, useless mechanic, like, all the way, on the opposite side of it, pretty much.
Right.
So like having to push M and stuff like that, just constantly, I would try to go run, but I'd end up like answering my walkie-talkie or like taking my walkie-talkie out, or I'd go to hit like R to run, but like I'd hit E and it wouldn't do anything. So it's just really frustrating most of the time. Like I would have thought I would have got used to it during my playtime, but I didn't. It was frustrating all the way to the very end. And then as for the narrative, I was really let down. I know, people justify it as like, oh, it's like real life. You get all these crazy things and it turns out to be something really simple. But one, this isn't real life. Nothing about this game is really realistic. In sense that, like how you brought up, like you can climb those big ass piles of rocks and stuff like that, and like just lift yourself up or like jump down these like pretty big like gaps. But for whatever reason, you can't lift yourself over a fence. You can't climb on top of these rocks and just easily jump over. Stuff like that. Like I don't even know. Honestly, it was just very frustrating. And God, like just thinking about it, just completely just threw my train of thought through a loop. I would have preferred them sticking to the mystery because, there's just the whole, the girl's disappearing, the kid that they talk about, him and his dad disappearing and stuff like that, the mysterious guy you run into, your fire tower getting broken into, you get attacked at a certain point, and then there's a whole possibility of potential, like it seems like almost like the government's conducting an experiment on you two of some sort. But out of all of it turns out to be such a simple, disappointing resolution. Like I honestly would have preferred them to go with the absurd, like the government actually was doing some sort of experiment, or Henry's going crazy and like Delilah wasn't real or something. Like as cliche as it might be, like I feel like that would have been much more satisfying than what I got. And just the whole time, they get shittier, it seems. Like they're just the decisions they make and like the things they say, they just feel like they're worse off than when they started the like Firewatch. And you run all these interesting like settings, like the fenced in area. When you finally get into it, you find like all this like super like kind of high tech almost equipment, like monitoring equipment and like reports on like both you and Delilah, and like just kind of like your background, like a whole bunch of information about you in general, as well as like transcripts between the two of you. So I was like, yeah, this totally seems like a professional thing. And you even find like a note like pinned to a thing, like, oh, doctor whatever won't be in, the subjects need to be like watched over, and but they're showing one of them showing like awareness and stuff like that, but like none of it literally makes sense, because in the end it just turns out to be some crazy guy. Like, was he pretending like with the doctor, or like I just didn't understand if that doctor stuff really happened, or like what the deal was with that, because they full on reference like supervisors signing off reports and stuff like that. And like, was it all just a big ruse that this man was putting on, like, for these people? Which wouldn't make sense, because it's later revealed that he's just scared because won't spoil it too much, but and like his relationship with the kid or whatever that Delilah talks about, and it's just super disappointing, because I feel like there are just so many like plot lines just completely abandoned, and that they could have gone with that would have been much more satisfying.
I mean, that's kind of what I want to touch on, is like
even like the fire, like,
oh my god, I don't.
Did you start the fire?
I don't even understand the fire thing, in all honesty. But like you were saying, like you're saying like, oh, like like if they went with the craziness, I would have been happy. But like, then I think about it and I'm like, oh man, maybe that was like a clever way the writers were saying, we make mountains out of, what do they call it, molehills or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought about it again. I'm like, there's no way the writers are thinking that much into it, because they didn't think you could climb a 10-foot fence. So
yeah, there's just so many things that were so unrealistic in the game that I don't know why they had to stick to this. I don't know, maybe it was an artistic thing that they thought was a good decision, but it didn't work for me. And yeah, it's just that it's like when you went to the is it like Wapiti station or whatever?
Oh yeah, the Wapiti.
Yeah. Do you know how Delilah wanted you to set the place on fire?
Yeah.
Like, did you do it?
No.
Yeah,
that's insane. That's
the
polar opposite of my job.
Yeah, I was like, it totally. Henry brings up that it could totally catch fire and like on everything else, and like everything can go up. So it's like, I don't understand. Did the crazy guy start the fire? Because like you walk away and like literally 2 minutes later, suddenly there's a big ass blaze going on behind you that like it just looks like someone dumped like barrels of gasoline almost like on this fire. Like, it wasn't a small fire, and it's just like literally manifested out of nowhere.
I mean, but from what I understand though, also like in forest areas like that, like since it's so dry, it's actually like pretty easy for things to catch on fire.
Yeah.
So it could have just been random, but at the same time, I don't remember.
Yeah, like that's what, like there's just more and more like threads making it seem like it was something much more like with the supervisor reports and stuff like that, like reading some of the notes and stuff like that. I read through the reports, and like they're signed off by like supervisors and stuff, and like their susceptibility to manipulation and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you read through the reports on Delilah and Henry, but yeah, there's like a whole like profile, like dossier on them, and it's just, yeah, like 1 through 10, how easily they could be manipulated, and like background information on them and stuff. Like, there's stuff about like Henry's wife. There's stuff about one of them says Delilah has a boyfriend or whatever. It's like still currently, even though she had said to you previously that she wasn't in that relationship any longer, and that she's known to like take on like multiple lovers or something like that. So it's just it didn't make sense to me that there are so many like plot threads that can like somehow be pulled off by like just some crazy guy in the woods, pretty much. sure, he can makeshift stuff, but like this was some pretty high tech stuff, and like these were some fairly in depth kind of reports on both of them. So yeah, it's just so much that I was just at a loss because I just felt so let down that I didn't get like kind of an interesting payoff. And like maybe that's just an issue, like a personal issue with myself, that I was expecting more than I guess what other people would have expected, or my term of entertainment or what I find interesting. But it's just very disappointing and abrupt, because literally it's just like, oh hey, like all the mysteries are almost all solved by like abrupt resolutions by Delilah. It's like, hey, remember those girls that went missing? Oh, turns out they showed up in another town. They stole like a tractor or some shit, and like they're fine. And like the whole time I was thinking, like, oh shit, like what if they got killed, or what if there is a bear? Because they mentioned that possibility. Because you find their tent like all torn up and shit like that, and so it's like there's all these like kind of mysterious things that they lead, and then the guy who attacks you and stuff like that, who when you find like his walkie-talkie, like knocks you out. The whole station, just everything. But they're like, oh no, it's and then you find the tape, and it's like, hey, I'm crazy guy. I'm the one who's doing this all along. Don't follow me. Like, is essentially how they decided to wrap it up. And then you're just like, okay, I guess I'm leaving now. Because this happens to be the day that you're leaving and the forest is completely on fire, and yeah, that's when you're finally like you're done with your job. But even like I don't know, even the very ending, like when you get in the helicopter to go home, like just the cut to black was so abrupt. I felt like that cut to black just kind of is a perfect representation of like the last half of the game, like of all the plot lines they decide. Like the whole like Sopranos ending type deal. It's like, oh, here's this mystery, done. Like it's just there's.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, spoilers for Sopranos if somehow you didn't know. But no, I agree with those points, and like I said, I really think this is a disappointment. Well, I wasn't expecting too much, but disappointment nonetheless. And just a really rushed effort at the end, so it's kind of sad. Now, with that said, though, I would still be willing to play like another game from Campo Santos, definitely. But
yeah.
This one was just there was too many things that were obviously just didn't strike a chord, or just really they're pretty poor. I mean,
yeah, and like I mentioned before, I feel like with you take the same environments, you take the same voice acting and stuff like that, and I feel like you could have like a really good suspenseful game, or even as you mentioned, like a character study of like it doesn't have to be the same characters, obviously, then wouldn't really make sense, but like just like a mystery, or even like in the very beginning, when I was recording like the Let's Play of it, when you like watch your car, like after the whole text-based adventure thing ends, like you're in like a dark garage, like parking garage, and like it just seemed really creepy, and I was like, wow, this could probably make a pretty good like horror game or whatever. Right. So I just feel like, the voice actors did an amazing job at making everything like suspenseful, and like just the way they delivered their lines was just perfect, and just like it set up everything. Obviously the chemistry that we mentioned earlier, but like whenever something crazy was going on, like they had just the right inflection and everything to like kind of get you to like, oh shit, when it's like there's a part where she was like, oh, you're already back in your station, and then he was like, what, I'm not in my station. She's like, yes you are, and he's like, no I'm not. And just pretty much the whole thing that there's someone, they're like, oh, then you're just like, I'm looking at your tower right now, and there's someone standing there, and at that point you realize like the stakes have been raised, and you're like, oh fuck, so you have to like make it back to the place to see like what's going on. So yeah, like I feel like if they went in a different direction or made a different game with similar assets, like it'd be awesome. But yeah, like you said, I'm not going to give it a number rating or anything like that, but I wouldn't recommend it at full price. I pre-ordered it, so I got a little bit off, but I'd say, yeah, wait for it to go on sale.
$10.
$10, I'd say, would be perfect price for it. I mean, it only took me maybe like 4.5 hours, maybe 5 hours to beat. So it's not particularly long. You could beat it in one playthrough if you just sit through it all. And maybe if you don't get so lost.
Director's cut, if you want the extended director's cut experience, though, get it on PS4, where it'll be about 6 hours, and it includes extra things like hard crashes and awful frame rates. So I'd recommend that if you're really that interested.
But yeah, like $10 would be fine. However, if you do have a PS4. You should, however, definitely grab the Firewatch theme because
the theme. Okay, I want to speak on that just shortly. The themes and the backgrounds for PC. That the game has amazing art style. I cannot deny that. Beautiful, beautiful, and I recommend the theme. One of the best themes I've ever had. Yesterday I saw it at like 6 p.m. and it was a completely different background. In terms of lighting and things than it is at night, so yeah. It's pretty cool, and it's a little depressing that I mainly see my background at night because of work.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It goes from like a bright blue for like the sun rising, and then orangish and bright and yellow and stuff like that, and then it gets once it hits like whatever afternoon is for you or like midday, like the sun starts going down. And then, eventually it switches to, like, nighttime. And, like, it's awesome. Because, since I have a 2-monitor thing, I usually have the PlayStation going on in my, my other monitor. And, it's awesome seeing it change. And, like, I've not seen a dynamic theme that's really taken into consideration the clock or really even be that dynamic compared to the other themes that are offered on there for money. I mean, this one cost about $350, which I didn't mind paying after seeing it. And, yeah, no, it's because so many other ones, it's just like, oh, look at this flower waving in the background, or like, hey, here's a ripple of something going on at the same time, or like every 2 seconds it moves, or like, look at this flag moving. But like this one, the trees are swaying, and like it actually takes in consideration the time of day, and definitely, I'd recommend the Firewatch theme 10 out of 10.
Yeah, the Firewatch theme is a 10 out of 10. The game, again, not seriously applying numbers, but absolutely, in my opinion, like a 5 out of 10. Just not very good. But
yeah, I'd say at most for me, maybe a 6 out of 10. I feel like just for the conversation in the beginning and stuff like that. The game by no means I don't think is bad. It's just it has a lot of little flaws that add up to a lot.
Yeah.
And they become nuisances and they grate on you a lot, and it's just it's very subtle at first until you have time to digest what you went through. Because at first when I finished the game, I was like, oh yeah, the game was awesome. Like that was really cool. But then like after taking a few days and thinking about it, I was like, yeah, not so awesome. So yeah, I'd say for me, at most a 6 out of 10 if I had to give it a number.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much like, our thoughts on Firewatch. As a whole, we've rambled long enough, and I don't really want to give this game any more time than it really deserves.
Yeah.
But that's all. Is there anything more you wanted to add to this, or just in general, Paul?
No, that's about it. I mean, if you guys listening have, if you want to share what you thought about anything we were talking about today, about Firewatch, did the things we complain about, work for you? Feel free to chime in, comment. This will go up on YouTube and stuff like that. So if you want to comment on the YouTube section, or you can email us. We have our emails on the website. I'm sure I'll put
We'll have it in the links below, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'll put a comment section on the actual website, like episode page. So if you want to comment on that, Facebook page, pretty much all of our social media, if you want to chime in at all, get your thoughts on that. We would love to hear it, and as well as any feedback as to what you'd like to hear next episode. If there's anything we didn't cover, or anything you'd like to be covered, or if you have any tweaks or balances to like what we did and like what you thought, what works for you. So.
Yep. And, that pretty much covers it all. And, since this is going up on YouTube, then please, like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to share. And if you disliked it too, dislike the video if you'd like. But we welcome open discussion. So and I'm definitely looking forward to doing this more and more.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good one.
All right, guys. Till the next time. Thanks.